Hey Castlevania fans, welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Imagine being locked away in a tower, branded a monster, only to rise centuries later as a self-proclaimed goddess of vampires. Erzsebet Bathory's story isn't just about bloodlust. It's about power, ambition, and a terrifying vision of eternal night. From a noblewoman sentenced to isolation to a being worshipped as the vampire messiah, her journey is filled with dark rituals, betrayal, and ultimate destruction. But how did she rise to such terrifying heights, and what led to her downfall? Let's unravel the legend of Erzsebet Báthory, the Queen of Vampires.
Crimes, Countess. The murder of who knows how many boys and girls.
Backstory of Erzsebet Báthory is a name that echoes through history with whispers of horror and legend. Known as one of the most infamous figures in history, she was a Hungarian noblewoman whose crimes cemented her place in dark folklore. But in Castlevania, Nocturne, her story takes on a supernatural twist, elevating her from a brutal countess to the vampire messiah, a force of darkness who sought to reshape the world itself. Born into privilege, Erzsebet was once just a noblewoman, but her delusions of grandeur led her to believe she was destined for more. She proclaimed herself the Messiah, a claim that led people to brand her as mad. By 1614, she was sentenced to perpetual isolation in a tower, accused of orchestrating the deaths of hundreds of women and children. But even in her imprisonment, her fate was far from sealed. One night, she received an unexpected visitor, Dracula, a powerful vampire with an even more powerful offer.
She will not burn.
How Erzsebet becomes vampire messiah. At first, Erzsebet believed Dracula had come to end her life, but instead, the vampire told her she had come to make her a goddess. Erzsebet was skeptical. Was such a thing even possible? She was about to find out. Dracula transformed Erzsebet into a vampire, setting her on a path of unimaginable power. But power isn't granted overnight. Erzsebet didn't simply wake up one day as the ruler of all vampires. She had to earn it, and she did so by drinking the blood of Sekhmet, the ancient Egyptian goddess, for nearly a century. This was a slow and deliberate process, allowing her to gradually absorb Sekhmet's Ka, her life force, and preventing the catastrophic fate that had befallen Dracula's previous candidates. Many others had tried to wield this power, only to burn alive. Erzsebet, however, endured. By the time she had fully acclimated to Sekhmet's power, Erzsebet had become more than just a vampire. She had become a legend. Feared and revered, she rose to the rank of the Queen of Vampires and the Vampire Messiah, leading her armies to conquer vast lands. No one was safe. One of her most infamous conquests was the destruction of the Speaker tribe that Terra once belonged to. A brutal reminder of her ruthless reign. Her ultimate goal? Eternal night. A world where vampires could walk freely, no longer bound by the limitations of the sun. And she had the perfect opportunity to achieve this. In 1789, amidst the chaos of the French Revolution, she set her sights on France. The conditions were ideal. Political turmoil, a strong vampire presence in the aristocracy, and the assistance of a powerful forge master, the Abbot of Machecoul. With the right leverage, she could secure an army of night creatures to enforce her rule. Dracula, her ever-loyal servant, took charge of the preparations, rallying powerful vampires from across the world, including Ulrachs and the Comte de Vaublanc. Meanwhile, the vampire aristocracy ensured that their queen would receive the royal welcome she deserved. Her followers, branded with the symbol of a solar eclipse, awaited her arrival with religious fervor. And then the night finally came. The arrival of a dark goddess, riding a golden chariot pulled by 3 white horses, Erzsebet Bathory made her grand entrance. Towering over mere mortals, her golden armor and extravagant white gown made her look like a being from another world. She barely acknowledged those who groveled before her mind always fixated on the grander picture, on her divinity. As a tribute, Dracula presented her with a noblewoman, a gift Erzsebet gladly accepted. This young woman would become her favorite pet, a constant companion and a source of sustenance. The streets filled with processions celebrating their savior as Erzsebet declared her plan to drown the world in darkness. But her plans required more than just declarations. She needed allies. and Olrox, with his ability to transform into a dragon, was too powerful to ignore. She secured his allegiance, just as she did with Abbot Emmanuel, though he had to prove his loyalty in the most painful way possible, by sacrificing his own daughter, Maria. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. As the eclipse reached its peak, Erzsebet wielded her immense magic to stop the moon in its tracks, sealing the world in darkness. The effect was immediate. Vampires everywhere felt their strength increase, while Erzsebet herself transformed into her ultimate form. Sekhmet reborn, her head took on the shape of a lioness, her body radiating an aura of divine power. The vampires launched their assault on Makakul, but resistance was waiting. Richter, Belmont, Annette, Tara, and Mizrak stormed the abbey, intent on stopping the ritual that would sacrifice Maria. They fought bravely, but even as they began to gain the upper hand, Erzsebet arrived. Her sheer presence was enough to shift the tides of battle. The hero's strongest attacks didn't even touch her. Desperate to save her daughter, Tara made an offer. Take her instead. Erzsebet accepted. She remembered Tara from long ago, recognizing her as the sister of a woman she had turned in Russia. With a cruel smile, she took Tara, leaving the others to retreat with Maria. But even a vampire messiah isn't invincible. Fate of the Queen of Vampires. Drolta's death left Erzsebet enraged. In her desperation, she commanded the abbot to use his machine to resurrect Drolta as a night creature. The reborn Drolta was more monstrous and powerful than before, leading Erzsebet's forces in a crusade to crush the ideals of the revolution. In a final gamble, Erzsebet consumed Sekhmet's mummified heart, pushing her power even further. But she had underestimated one thing. Her enemies had power too. Annette, now carrying a fragment of Sekhmet's soul, turned that power against her. The battle was brutal. Erzsebet faced off against Richter, Justa, Maria, and Annette's Sekhmet-infused soul. She was overpowered, especially by Maria's light dragon, which tossed her around like a ragdoll. In the final moments, the dragon tore off her arm, and a combined fire attack from Richter, Juste, and Maria delivered the finishing blow. Defeated, Erzsebet was left vulnerable, and Drolta, once her most loyal servant, saw an opportunity. With a cruel smile, she turned on her former queen, sinking her fangs into Erzsebet's neck and stealing the last remnants of Sekhmet's power. Erzsebet Bathory, the self-proclaimed vampire messiah, had been betrayed. Her lifeless body was discarded, kicked away by Drolta as she prepared for a new battle. In the aftermath, her remains and those of her fallen army were gathered and burned in a massive pyre, a final end to the nightmare she had unleashed upon the world. And so ended the reign of Erzsebet Báthory, the countess, the queen, the false messiah who sought to eclipse the world, only to be swallowed by the very darkness she created. Our nerdy thoughts. And so, the reign of the vampire messiah came to a fiery end, betrayed by the very one who had raised her to power. Erzsebet's story is a grim reminder that even the most powerful figures can fall, especially when their own creations turn against them. But was this truly the end of her dark legacy, or could remnants of her power still linger in the shadows? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more legendary tales from the world of Castlevania. Until next time, stay curious and stay wary of the things that lurk in the dark.
Let's go home.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.